Today on the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement.
We are going to discuss how two emotions that you have, greed and fear, affect your decision when it comes to your hard-earned dollars that you've worked your lifetime to create.
And on our Coach's Corner, we're going to discuss how the stock market is intimidating your retirement plans.
And on our Chalk Talk segment today, we're going to show you what to do now with your hard-earned dollars so that you can be successful in retirement.
So sit back, relax, and learn. The Chad Slagle Show starts now.
I'm Chad Slagle. I believe financial planning is about educating people and empowering them to make better decisions with their hard-earned dollars. Coaching gives me satisfaction from watching a player succeed and get better.
You need an experienced team around you. The best coaches have great assistant coaches.
I have brought a lot of the techniques and structure I learned from playing and coaching football and applied them to the world of investing. My goal now is to coach as many individuals and families as I can on how to get successfully to and through retirement.
Hello, everyone. Welcome in to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. I'm Wendy Erickson, here with the coach, Chad Slagle. Today on the Clipboard segment, we're going to discuss how two emotions that you have, greed and fear, affect your decisions when it comes to your hard-earned dollars that you've worked a lifetime to build.
That's right, Wendy. We all have two emotions, greed and fear, especially when it comes to our hard-earned dollars, money that has taken a lifetime to create. And in order to be successful in retirement in today's economic environment, you cannot let emotions get involved. However, when you think about how much blood, sweat, and tears went into building this nest egg you now have for retirement, you can't help but let emotions get involved. And that's why it is so important to have a guide to help you as you get closer to retirement. And a couple of questions we ask a prospective client when they come into our office is, what is the rate of return you would expect from your investments? And a common answer we get is that 10 to 15%. And then we ask, well, how much are you willing to lose in a down market? And a common answer is really no more than 10%. Because if you have $500,000 or $1 million in your 401k and retirement accounts and you lose 10%, that's $50,000 to $100,000 you lost. And just think about how hard you work to make $50,000 or $100,000 when you're working. So when we discuss greed, we all get greedy and we want huge returns, but we are also afraid of losing those hard-earned dollars. And that's why you have to have a guide to help you find that happy medium between that risk, but also having those returns so you can live a happy, successful retirement.
Definitely fear, being afraid of something can keep you from doing something that in the end would be really good for you. I learned that firsthand. I once saw Sylvester Stallone in a restaurant and I was afraid to go up and say hello and ask him for an autograph. Back in the days of autographs, didn't even have cell phones.
Right.
And so sure enough, I didn't, but someone else did. And they, to this day, probably have a really cool photo with Sylvester Stallone, and I do not, because I was afraid.
And you were afraid. And we're always teaching our kids what? To face your fears, don't be afraid, and eventually you'll get to a better place. Absolutely right. You know, the stock market, of course, it scares everyone, and no one has a crystal ball. We know the stock market is going to do two things, though. It's going to go up and it's going to go down. But as you get closer to retirement, you have to start insulating your portfolio from a downturn in the market, and you have to change your mindset from grow at all costs to make sure that you have that income coming in to last throughout the rest of your life. And that's what we want to get in and talk about today, how that mindset has to change as you get closer to retirement.
Having a great retirement is a little more important to me than having that photo of Sylvester Stallone. So
right.
I just maybe want to pay attention to what you have to say today.
That's right.
Don't be so afraid. When we return on the Coach's Corner, we are going to discuss how the stock market is intimidating your retirement plans. We'll be right back.
The number one concern of retirees today is outliving their hard-earned dollars. It is more important now than ever to educate and empower yourself to make better decisions with your money that it has taken you 30 to 40 years to accumulate. How do you do this? By using our Financial GPS, our guided planning system. This is a 4-step process to help get you successfully to and through retirement. The first step in this process is to create clarity. Here we will help identify your goals as well as your concerns and identify what you want to accomplish in retirement. The second step, we will analyze the risk you're taking with your current portfolio, and this step will also identify exactly what you are paying in fees. In the third step, we will evaluate and assess your current plan and help identify the gap between the missing pieces. And in the fourth and final step, this is where we will work together to implement a plan of action to accomplish your retirement goals. And this process can take place at any one of our convenient locations in Missouri and in Illinois. So call now to get set up on that right path on your journey through retirement.
Welcome back to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. We are back with the coach, Chad Slagle, and his colleague, Chad Tobin. And today on the Coach's Corner, we're going to discuss how the stock market is intimidating your retirement plans.
Very intimidating. You know, when you start working at a young age, it is natural to save and put your money away, so of course it can grow. Most people will put their money in the stock market because over time we know the market has continued to go up. And it is great to help your money grow. But at some point, when you get closer to retirement, it is important to understand a mind shift from grow at all costs to holding on to the money that you've spent a lifetime to create. And the problem we see way too often is people, as they get closer to retirement, they have all or most of their money sitting in the stock market without any idea of how much they could possibly lose if the market were to have a correction or take a big hit. So today, we want to help open your eyes and understand how the stock market can affect your hard-earned dollars if you do not plan properly.
Well, and I think we're not trying to say that the stock market's bad by any means, because obviously it can be really good. However, you know, at this stage of life, at retirement, and this kind of retirement planning in today's age, you can't afford to have all of your money in the stock market.
All right, so let's jump right in and discuss why the stock market is intimidating your retirement plans.
Number one is that magic number. A lot of people get hung up on, do I have the magic number? Do I have enough to retire? And everyone today thinks that magic number is that $1 million that they need to have in order to retire. And everyone's number is going to be different. It all depends on what kind of lifestyle you want to have in retirement, how much income you need coming in to support that lifestyle, and where is that money going to come from? For some, Chad, you know, that number could be $1 million. Others, it could be $500,000, or others, it could be $2 million. The other things you have to look at, other than just that nest egg, is do you have other incomes coming in when you retire, say from Social Security, pensions, other incomes you may have coming in. So you have to take all that into consideration. Understand it's not cookie cutter. Everybody's magic number is different.
Well, and as you mentioned, I think, you know, somebody that has a couple pensions and some good Social Securities coming in and their income is pretty much already solved, you know, their magic number is going to be different than somebody that's, you know, has all of their money in their 401k, they don't have a pension, they're just relying on Social Security. So that magic number is going to be different. And I think, you know, it's about, we talked about our neighbors, you know, everyone's different, everyone's situation's different.
Don't look what your friend is doing.
Don't look at what your friend's doing.
So what's the second reason that many of us, we're letting the stock market be intimidating to us?
The second one, of course, that mindset, and we all have that accumulation mindset, and you have to understand accumulation versus the preservation phase. Most people still have an accumulation mindset with all or most of their money in the stock market, so they're scared about the market and dropping and losing money. For example, we had a client come into a workshop last year at the end of the year and was going to retire in March. So he came into the workshop, it's probably October, November, was getting ready to retire in March, and his concern was he had lost 15 to 20% of that $1 million, and he was going to retire in 3 months. So that's a huge hit to what his magic number was $1 million, didn't have a whole lot of a pension, so actually needed a lot of that income to live off of. So now he's going to have to completely change his lifestyle. However, Chad, as he got closer to retirement, if he would have changed his mindset and understand when you have those 401ks and those retirement accounts, you need to look at that in two different buckets, what you've made and what you could make. And by making that simple mindset and that shift in your mindset, you could be able to protect some of those money. And as I said earlier, Wendy, insulate that from a downturn in the market.
Well, and this is something we see, you know, it's a common thing we see every single week in our practice. People coming in, you know, and they've been working 20, 30, 40 years, and they've had that accumulation, grow at all cost mindset. And that's common. But, you know, as you get closer to retirement, it's also very common we see the mindset starts shifting, but you also have to be able to understand that and make some changes to adjust with that mindset shift.
Yes, so what would be the last point?
The number one, of course, is the guaranteed retirement benefits, otherwise known as pension. As we say on the show all the time, we're living in a pensionless society, but many companies and corporate pensions are making big announcements we're seeing right now. You know, GE just announced that they are offering a lump sum pension buyouts to about 100,000 former U.S. employees, and it also announced plans to freeze pension benefits for over 20,000 salaried pensioners at current levels. And unions, of course, the power of unions is diminishing. For example, the United Auto Workers Union right now is currently bargaining for improved pension benefits with General Motors. Of course, they're on strike right now, and this is one thing they're fighting about is that pension, because it is a huge burden on these companies that they're going to pay you an income stream, or they pay their retirees an income stream they can never outlive, and they want to get rid of that risk and say, hey, here's a lump sum, you figure it out. The problem is that's a huge burden to take on your shoulders if it's not something that you're used to and you handle each and every day. And if you make a mistake, that money may not last throughout the rest of your life, and that's a very, very scary thing today.
Well, and Chad, you often talk, I mean, the days of relying on someone else to take care of you are pretty much in the past. And, you know, I think today, employees out there today and retirees, they have the 401ks, they have their company plans, and that's what they have to rely on. But the problem is all of that 401k, 95% of the investment options are all stock market driven. And so understand that you have to plan differently with these accounts.
Be educated and understand.
Yes.
Yes.
And don't be like your neighbor.
That's right. And don't look at what your friends are doing.
That's
be like
right.
your neighbor. We do have more information for you to get you educated. You can download our free white paper today about building a roadmap to retirement. Just visit slagelfinancial.com/empoweryou. Coming up on Chalk Talk, we're going to show you what to do now with your hard-earned dollars so that you can be successful in retirement. Stay with us.
Let's go.
He's such an involved dad. He's always telling the kids stories. I remember when so-and-so said I couldn't do this or I didn't make this team.
Everybody in here.
That's what drives him. In our family, we always tell our kids to stick up for each other, stand behind one another. He feels it's his role to provide, keep us safe, and to make sure that the kids are taken care of. A lot of Chad's clients have the same traditional values, and he bonds with them. Each family has a different set of circumstances, and each family is unique and different. The common thread between all of Chad's clients is that they want the best for their family, just as he would our own family.
Welcome back in, everyone, to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. So we just discussed how the stock market is intimidating your retirement plans. Now we're going to show you what to do now with your hard-earned dollars so that you can be successful in retirement. I like the sound of that.
Absolutely. You know, Wendy, we mentioned earlier, the stock market does two things. It goes up and it goes down. And there's so many things going on today with the politicians, the trade wars, the global economy in general. And why would you, at home, if you're retired or getting ready to retire, why would you continue to bet your retirement on things you have no control over? The only thing that you really can control is who you work with when it comes to investing your hard-earned dollars and what vehicles you are invested in to protect you from that downturn and protect your retirement. So today on the Chalk Talk segment, we want to show you what to do now in order to be successful in retirement.
Well, and at the end of the day, I think it comes down to you have to have a plan. You know, you can't go into retirement today without having any kind of plan. It'd be like going into any kind of job or any kind of game that your kids or you're involved in without any kind of plan, and it's just unheard of. So we have to have a plan going into retirement.
And that's really that mindset change that we talked about. Yeah. 20 years ago, you could just retire and say, hey, I know I have a pension, I have Social Security, I am good. However, as we just mentioned with GE, General Motors, these big corporations, you cannot do that anymore. You cannot depend on somebody else to take care of you. You got to be proactive and build a game plan now.
And actually being successful in retirement is, number one, that income plan. Expand on that
So it's not
bit.
just income plan, it's a written retirement income plan. Income is one of the most important factors in retirement, if not the most important now. And it's one of those first things you need to figure out when you decide to retire. Number one, as we mentioned earlier, you need to make sure you work with an advisor who can help you build that written retirement income plan. And again, it's not one in your head or a maybe income plan, but a structured set game plan where you know, number one, The money that's coming in is going to last the rest of your life, the rest of your spouse's life, and it takes into consideration inflation and cost of living. And one thing that we find all the time, we talked earlier about having that magic number. A lot of people, if they gather all their assets up, they do have that magic number. The problem is, Chad, they may have an IRA over here, a 401k over there, some mutual funds over here. They have the assets that they need, but these assets are not working cohesively together to accomplish their goals and to get them successfully to retirement.
Yeah, and I mean, we talk about that written retirement income plan. What you were mentioning, assets scattered all over, falls under what we call maybe a maybe income plan. We're hoping all of these different moving pieces work together at some point and we don't run out of money. And I think that's an important key to note is, number one, simplifying your game plan to maybe consolidate. But number two, make sure you create a reliable written income plan that you know that income's going to come in whether you're 85, 95, or live to be 105.
Written retirement income plan. Got it.
That's right.
Okay, what else should you maybe consider?
The accumulation versus the preservation phase, and understand where you're at or where you're going. We talk about the accumulation phase starts when we're about age 20, when we start working, and the whole goal is to save up enough money, eventually get to the point where we can retire. The thing is, you have to understand in this accumulation phase, if you're 30 or 46 years of age like I am, and you lose 20 to 30% in your 401k, it's a pretty big deal. But it's not as big a deal if I'm 65 or 66. Why? Because I have time to make up for those losses, but also when you're working, you have income coming in to make up for those losses. However, as you get closer to retirement, say that 62 or 65 years of age and you're 6 months, 3 years from retiring, now it's more important to make sure that that money is insulated from a downturn in the market. Because now if you lose 10, 20 to 30%, you may not have time to make up for those losses, but also when you retire, you no longer have that new income coming in. You no longer have those paychecks coming in, and now you may need this nest egg to live off of. So that mindset has to change from the accumulation phase to that preservation phase, Chad.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of times we run into people that we go back to the conversation of 2007, 2008. That was really 10, 11, 12 years ago. And, people back then still were seeing retirement 10 years in the future. And a lot of times back then, they may have let things ride. They may have stayed in the market, lost 30, 40%, and rode it out. And they're here today facing retirement in the face. So, but when we sit down with them, we have that conversation. They don't want to go through that again because they're getting ready to retire in the next 6 months or the next 2 years. So these are all things that how their mindset has changed and how they're willing and open to make some changes.
All right, so what about the last thing that we should all do now?
The biggest thing is do not rely on somebody else to take care of you. What do I mean by this? 20, 30 years ago, as we mentioned, you could rely on your employer to provide you a pension. You could rely on the government to give you a Social Security. That money would last throughout the rest of your life. However, today, you cannot rely on your employer to give you that income stream that's going to last throughout the rest of your life. Those of you sitting at home that are lucky enough to have a pension now, they can still take that pension and offer you a buyout. Because again, that's a lot of risk that these companies are taking, that their employees, they thought they were going to go at 75, but here they are at 85, 95, and these are huge bills that they're paying. And that's why we're seeing the problems with GE, the problems with General Motors. They're trying to cut some cost, and that's a huge problem. The key is, though, is be proactive. Build a game plan to take care of yourself. Don't depend on the employer. Don't depend on the government. And don't depend on the market to continue to stay up to make sure that you have a successful retirement. So again, do not rely on someone else. Be proactive, build a game plan, and really depend on yourself.
Well, and I think all of that, but you have to find somebody that you can work with that can help you build that game plan, because doing it on your own with all of the tools that are out there and available to be able to build a proactive retirement plan is very challenging. So work with someone that can help you build that plan for you.
Good advice. And more information, we want to remind you one more time to download our free white paper today about building a roadmap to retirement. Visit SlagleFinancial.com/empoweryou. When we come back on our strategy play, the Chads are going to show you how a correction in the stock market can affect your retirement plans.
The number one concern of retirees today is outliving their hard-earned dollars. It is more important now than ever to educate and empower yourself to make better decisions with your money than it has taken you 30 to 40 years to accumulate. How do you do this? By using our Financial GPS, our guided planning system. This is a 4-step process to help get you successfully to and through retirement. The first step in this process is to create clarity. Here we will help identify your goals as well as your concerns and identify what you want to accomplish in retirement. The second step, we will analyze the risk you're taking with your current portfolio, and this step will also identify exactly what you are paying in fees. In the third step, we will evaluate and assess your current plan and help identify the gap between the missing pieces. And in the fourth and final step, this is where we will work together to implement a plan of action to accomplish your retirement goals. And this process can take place at any one of our convenient locations in Missouri and in Illinois. So call now to get set up on that right path on your journey through retirement. Welcome back to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. On this week's strategy play, we're going to show you how a correction in the stock market can affect your retirement plans. As I mentioned earlier, this is something, Chad, that we run into our office pretty often. As people get closer to retirement, they really need to start looking at their 401k and their retirement accounts in really two different buckets, what you've made and what you could make. Unfortunately, what we find with a lot of people today, all the way up until that day of retirement, they continue to risk that money because, as we mentioned earlier, we all get greedy and we all want more and more and more. So we have a client here, Chad, as we put down here, is your retirement income at risk? So go through this example with us and kind of explain where we're at.
Well, I think you see John, who's 65 years of age. He's planning on retiring in 6 months, and he knows with any other income coming in, he's going to need an additional $50,000 a year from his portfolio. Right now, his magic number, he's accumulated $1 million. However, what we found out is, most of this money, 95% of that money, his 401k, is sitting out here on the growth side, in the stock market. And so 5% right now is a good income. However, what happens? What are some of the what ifs?
Yeah, and we talked about the what ifs and, getting this close to retirement. Do you really want your retirement, your game plan for the rest of your life to be dependent on the stock market with all the things that are going on? As we mentioned earlier, the politicians, the global wars that are going on out there, with so many little things, the media out there today that could make the market drop 15 to 20% very easily. Do you want your retirement dependent on that? So in this situation, as we see here, if the market drops 20%, you don't have $1 million, now you have somewhere in the vicinity of $800,000. So when he retires, to still get that amount of money, of $50,000 a year, you have to draw out 6.25% of your money. Probably way too much if you want to make sure that money lasts throughout the rest of your life. So the question is, should I adjust my lifestyle and live off less money, or should I continue to work another 6 months or a year to continue to build that money up? Those are really the decisions you have to make if you continue to have all of your money in the market. However, if you plan properly and you set your money up with that proper safe risk ratio, what we call that secure and growth bucket, you should be able to make sure that your money lasts throughout the rest of your life, no matter really when you want to retire, Chad.
Yeah, and I think just by, obviously, when John came in, his mindset was already, he realized he was taking on too much risk and some of the things that we talked about. So obviously adjusting that, maybe changing those percentages, filling that secure bucket where he didn't have much. Now he's trying to fulfill that secure bucket to make sure he's got the retirement income, but also that protection mindset is kind of being solved there.
Yeah, as you get closer to retirement, he needs that money. So again, just to reiterate what Chad said, you want to make sure you separate that money into two different buckets, that secure bucket where you know it's safe. So if we do have a 10, 15, 20% correction in the market, you cannot lose that money. Also, if you need income off of that money, it's going to come in each and every month for the rest of your life and the rest of your spouse's life, no matter how long either one of you live. And then once you set that up, then you can have some money sitting in the growth bucket. Of course, it's there to grow. It's there to keep up with the rate of inflation cost of living. If the market's down, if this side of the bucket's down, it's not a big deal. We can wait for the market to come up, and when it's at a high, then we can go in and harvest some of those gains. So it's really about having that mindset and really insulating your portfolio from a downturn in the market as you get closer to retirement.
Yeah, so as the markets go up and down, we now have 40% of that money that's going to kind of go up and down for the long term, the inflation, but also maybe supplementing a little bit more income from there is going to be okay.
Is the stock market intimidating your retirement plans? Do you need help building a plan now so that you can be successful in retirement? If so, we encourage you to give us a call today, and that's this week's Strategy Play.
If you have any questions about today's show, or if you'd like for us to discuss a new topic, email us at askchad@slagelfinancial.com to have your questions answered on the show. We'll be right back with some of the key takeaways from today.
Your host, the coach, Chad Slagle, and
I'll be with you guys in just a few minutes.
When it comes to your health, your life, your family, your home, and your hard-earned dollars, of course you want to make sure you're working with that sharp, energetic, knowledgeable individual that is always looking out for your best interest.
Such short notice. Appreciate it. Thanks.
It's time to get your financial house in order. This is the new age of retirement planning.
In the Wall Street world, that's what they talk about. You got to have
Now back into the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. We are Slagle Financial. Call now, 888-294-9248.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. We've covered a lot of ground today, a lot of information. What would you say, Chad, are some of the key takeaways?
Number one, do not assume you need a magic number to retire. There are many variables to look at other than just the assets and the lump sum that you've gathered. Number two, understand the difference between the accumulation and preservation phase of life and understand where you are now. And number three, make sure that you build a written retirement income plan that is set up to get you successfully to and through retirement. And make sure you have an income stream set up to last the rest of your life, the rest of your spouse's life, no matter how long either one of you live.
And a reminder to download our free white paper today about building a roadmap to retirement. Visit slagelfinancial.com/empoweryou. Well, Slagle Financial and their team of advisors have educational events coming up in your area to make sure you are prepared for today's retirement. For more information and to sign up for one of these events, call 888-294-9248 or visit chadslagleshow.com.
Remember, folks, success is waking up in the morning, whoever you are, wherever you are, no matter how old or young you are, and bounding out of bed because there's something out there that you love to do, that you believe in, that you're good at, and you can hardly wait to get at it again today. At Slagle Financial, realize that this is bigger than our team. It's about educating you, the public, and our wonderful clients, and empowering you to make better decisions with your hard-earned dollars. For my colleague Chad Tobin, my co-host Wendy Erickson, this is the coach, Chad Slagle. Thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to visiting with each and every one of you next week.
Clothing for the Chad Slagle Show is provided by AL Custom Clothiers, a custom men's clothier that understands the value of offering our customers the best for less. ALCustomClothiers.com or 314-570-6000.